appreciate the speaker, appreciate the time here on the floor. I appreciate, as I said a minute ago, my friend from Louisiana, Representative Johnson, for his steadfast defense of the Constitution of the United States, his willingness to stand up for all the important values from life to marriage, but importantly being a voice for this body, for the Republican Conference, and where we want to take this country, what we know the American people want us to do, and to stand athwart the absolute absurd policies of a Democrat majority that doesn't give a whit about the people that they're rolling over in a quest to placate their radical leftist policies, whether it's energy or open borders, and I appreciate the gentleman from Louisiana and his efforts. I'm here to talk about my Democratic colleagues and the extent to which the American people need to understand they break it, you buy it. And that's the reality of what's happening. My Democratic colleagues are breaking this country, breaking up your families, breaking up our secure border, breaking up our military, breaking up our court systems, the rule of law, breaking up our police, our law enforcement community. They're breaking up our economy, breaking the strength of the American dollar. They're breaking our position in the world, and they're breaking this body, the people's house. And it's high time it stop. And we can only hope that in November we get a change so that we can stop it. And then my message to my Republican colleagues is we better stop it. Because what's happening in the so-called people's house cannot be tolerated any longer. They break it. This body, the leadership of this country, they break it. You buy it. In reverse, I would say America is great. Washington is broken. They're breaking it every day. And as a result, they're breaking this great country that our forefathers fought so hard to give to us and to our children and our grandchildren. You cannot defend the policies of the Democratic majority. It's impossible to do. And in fact, if you set out to harm the United States of America, I would defy someone to demonstrate to me how you could do better than my Democratic colleagues are doing on a daily basis, ripping apart the Constitution, ripping apart the shreds of the flag, ripping apart the people of this country, dividing us by race, dividing us by income, dividing us by our adherence to the Constitution or devotion to the border, or devotion to the rule of law. That's what's happening on a daily basis, and it's purposeful. Let's be perfectly clear that it's purposeful. The reason my Democratic colleagues focus so intently on January 6th is they want to divide us. The reason they want to have race-based policies throughout our government is they want to divide us. The reason they want to make the border be supposedly about not liking brown people is because they want to divide us. Never mind that South Texas is full of brown people who are sick of wide open borders, empowering cartels. That's the reality of what's going on in this chamber and in the Senate and at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. Let's just focus on the border for a minute. Broken, wide open, abused by cartels, exploited by terrorists, exploited by gang members, criminals coming into our country, killing American citizens, fentanyl pouring into our communities, 107,000 dead Americans, 850,000 known gotaways pouring in between the ports of entry because our Border Patrol are overwhelmed with not only no support from this administration, but the purposeful attack by the Secretary of Homeland Security lying about the good men and women of Border Patrol, saying that they whipped people that they didn't, and then hiding behind some report while they give them an administrative punishment. That is your leadership, ladies and gentlemen. They are breaking it, and you have to buy it. They are leaving our border wide open, and American citizens are dying. Let me repeat that. They are leaving our border wide open, broken, and the American people are dying. Thousands upon thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl pouring into our communities, pushed by China, exploited by cartels, left to be able to come into our country because Democrats do not care about securing the border. And more importantly, my Democratic colleagues are perfectly fine purposely leaving our border wide open. It's purposeful. It's purposeful. They are breaking it, and you're going to have to buy it. How about our defense? Our Defense Department is being broken on a daily basis by my colleagues on their side of the aisle and in the other chamber, and particularly this administration, shoving into the Department of Defense a radical woke ideology, radical woke programs, policies focused on diversity and equity and inclusion, all of the things that they cloak with a critical race theory to destroy and break apart the institution of our defense. It's purposeful. Vaccine mandates, forcing 60,000 guardsmen to be on the chopping block to lose their entire career. It is purposeful. They're breaking it. They're breaking that military you love. They're breaking that Department of Defense that needs to be there on that wall defending us. They're breaking it. They're breaking it by tucking tail and running out of Afghanistan with $85 billion of equipment there and 12 or 13 dead service members and no accountability. No accountability for the brass at the Pentagon and no accountability so far at the White House for tucking tail and running. They're breaking our Defense Department. You talk to the service members who are in my office coming in tears because they're about to lose their entire career because they choose not to take a politicized vaccine, oh, by the way, by another broken governmental agency or agencies, our whole public health system being radicalized by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to strike fear in the hearts of the American people, to watch them push aside and brush under the rug gain-of-function research and all that we see unfolding in China and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, all that we know about the funding, American funding that was tied to that, all that we know about the absurdity of locking down schools, shutting down our schools so our kids are stuck in masks, stuck in the corner and not able to go to school, the damage it has done to our kids, the mental health issues, destroying the education of our young, all chasing the teachers' unions. We've seen the mandatory or efforts at mandatory vaccines, thankfully partially struck aside, but many still in place, breaking the back of the people's trust in their public health, breaking the back of the people's ability to serve in the military and defend this country, breaking the back of people being able to be federal public servants working for Border Patrol or other federal agencies. Why? Because of fealty to Anthony Fauci being the great wizard of public health while he poses for magazine covers and throws out pitches at baseball games. Meanwhile, your defense is broken, your public health is broken, and you're going to have to buy it. How about crime on the streets of the United States of America? How about the 12 Democrat-run cities that have called for defunding their police and have seen skyrocketing crime enveloping the cities? The business owner I spoke to today in Baltimore who says he's going to have to shut down his franchise because of crime rampant in Baltimore. Austin, Texas, which cut its police by a third and have seen homicides skyrocket from 59 to 89, have seen 911 calls unanswered. Drug trafficking increasing, taking police off the streets in Austin, Texas. We've seen 50 of the biggest urban areas see a 5% decrease in their police budgets, while my colleagues on the other side of the aisle say they're doing no such thing. But my friend Mr. Johnson rattled off quote after quote after quote in the House Judiciary Committee of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle calling for defunding of the police. Of course it's an attack on our police. They're breaking our police departments, breaking the back of our men and women in blue, and leaving our streets exposed to lawlessness and danger. And it's purposeful. How about energy? Could you take a more ridiculous position than to take the strength of national security, of having abundant oil and gas, the ability to lead on nuclear, and instead chase unicorn energy policies of nothing but solar and wind, so that on a cloudless, windless day, or cloudy, windless day, you sit back and watch your energy plummet and your grid weaken? What kind of a country's leadership does that to its people? I'd say the kind that want to break it. I'd say the kind that want to chase the fairy tales and the unicorn energy policies that this administration wants to pursue. We could have nuclear power. Doesn't create any carbon dioxide. Do my colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to do that? No, because this is about fear. This is about breaking American energy. This is about breaking the back of it so you can get on your private plane and fly to Davos and fit in with the Western Europeans and how great they are while they're now burning wood to heat their homes. We had the greatest national security asset you could possibly imagine, which was full and complete energy independence, and we're completely flushing it down the toilet to break it, and to break it purposefully. And we don't have to do it. We have abundant energy, abundant clean burning natural gas that we could export to other countries, as we were doing, driving down carbon dioxide. We could be producing nuclear facilities all across this country with zero CO2 production, but we're not. Instead, we're literally we're tilting at windmills, dotting the landscape with windmills. We had a couple of weeks ago in Texas where we had 8% of the wind capacity available in our grid. Absolutely astounding of what we're doing to the energy of the United States of America. Inflation. I mean, I can't even get all this in. The absurd policies of Democrats. I've already covered border, could go further. Already talked about defense, could go further. Didn't even get into Ukraine and the lack of briefings and the $56 billion we just dumped into Ukraine with zero indication of a strategy of what we're actually going to do, while we expand NATO with zero indication about how that's going to impact Article 5 and an 800-mile border and whether NATO is going to upend its end of the bargain when we fund the vast majority of NATO. I didn't even talk about that part of defense. I didn't talk about crime. I mean, I talked about crime, but I didn't get into every aspect of it. I didn't get into every aspect of energy. Now it's about inflation. The wisdom of this administration coming in and dumping $1.9 trillion. I don't even remember what the name of that ridiculous bill was, but it was garbage. And it's now driving up the cost of goods and services for you, the American people. They're breaking it. They're breaking your jobs. They're breaking your income. They're breaking your ability to buy goods and services. And you're literally going to have to buy it, and you're going to have to pay a lot for it. Because they're spending money we don't have. They're printing money, throwing it out in the economy, driving up the prices of goods, while they're simultaneously restricting the ability for us to develop energy, to have abundant energy that you can afford. You like $4.50 gasoline? Well, guess what? Your Democratic leadership just defended that as being great. In a Rules Committee debate this week, when I sat in that room debating the rules, literally the Democratic Rules Committee was talking about how great it is that the price of oil has come down, quote unquote. And they talk about the price of copper going down. Well, I've spent a lot of money on copper to wire my home. It's expensive as heck. It's now locked up in cages. But do you know what the price of copper going down means? Heading into a recession. That's the reality of what we're facing. That's the truth. Our economy is getting ripped to shreds. Price of goods and services are going up. And it's purposeful. Spending money we don't have. How can you justify spending $2 trillion, printing that money, and dumping it out there to drive up the price of goods and services while cutting off the production of oil and gas, not developing nuclear, increasing the price of gasoline, increasing the price of energy in your homes? It could only be purposeful. They're breaking it. They want to break it so they can live in unicorn land. But you're going to have to buy it, and it's going to be expensive. How about the state of the rule of law? How about the state of the family?